My name is Jeffrey Davis, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. And we continue to stream stories of leadership, entrepreneurship, and how people are adapting and winning in this economy. That's what this is all about, learning how to win. And when it comes to winning, one of my favorite winners is the fabulous Marc Z from Marc Z Legal Staffing. Joins us every week since the inception of the show to give us our one and only Marc Z moment. Welcome back, Marc.
Thank you, Jeff. Great to be here. Great to always spend some time and moments with you.
That's great, Marc. Marc, it really is true. Things are changing on the fly every week now, and I'm wondering what your shrewd advice is this week.
Well, what I thought I would talk about, and we have talked about it regularly over the last many years since COVID, is the work from home, working remotely policies of firms. That's constantly in flux and it's constantly being evaluated. A lot of companies that have had work from home are now changing back. I know Dell, for example, and now wants everybody back 5 days a week. And you talk to other companies, it's working the remote process, and why change it? In professional services firms take a different take on the process. If it's support staff, a lot of firms are now having 1 day a week where somebody could work remotely. That way, person who's working at the organization or the company or firm has a chance to have a break and they can pick their day. Other firms, organizations, and companies are having a 3 days in, 2 days out policy, and that which is sticking. Otherwise, a lot of firms and companies remain flexible. But what we're seeing is a lot of firms are evaluating this whole process and are making the decision to bring more people back. So that's where it's going. But a lot of companies and organizations are keeping the policies to stay as much as they can, because they know that if they change that, that's going to upset the dynamics of their space that they're operating in.
Well, there's just so many factors that contribute to this in terms of culture, taking something away that now has become somewhat of an entitlement. Uh,
Right,
I understand the building of culture, and to build culture, you do want people to be able to be collegial and feel like they're in a team. So there needs to be some contact, but forcing 5 days a week of contact may not be the fairest way of doing that too. I do
right,
remember one of my original mentors because I came out of a Fortune 100 company earlier in my career when I was very young. And we were talking about staff and setting my goal of setting quotas on everyone. So watching over them and goals. And my partner said to me, this mentor said to me, "Are you really measuring the output that you really want, Jeffrey? Isn't it really the delivery of results that you really want to be measuring?" And I think that's a factor too. And too often I have found with leaders that they are measuring the wrong factors. And the real key, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have people in the office, some kind of combination, whatever it is for recruiting or culture, but you have to measure the real outputs and the real
right.
outputs that lead towards top line and bottom line success. And that's really the key. What are those outputs? And that gets lost for a lot of people because they're harder to define and they're harder to manage for some
Right.
people.
No, I agree with you. I think there has to be a balance. I think if you're 5 days a week and that can work for you and the firm or the company, and it's dwelling and the employees are fine with that and that policy works, that should be. If it's working with the 3 and 2, that should be. But as you say, you've got to manage your team in some way, and you have to look at what the output is. I think that employers are just evaluating it more over a certain period of time because, for example, some people come in and immediately they have like, for example, some law firms, a lot of partners say, well, now I can work remotely or almost totally remotely, and they're not spending time with their associates or people that they're should manage. And so that's becoming an issue for certain firms or organizations or companies to define. Other what companies are saying or firms are saying, come in for a certain period of time, even more so, maybe 5 days a week, or maybe 4 days a week. And then after a certain period of time, you can work remotely on the regular schedule. But I agree with you. I think that each business or firm should look at what works for them. Sometimes it's the remote process is working because, for example, you can attract talent that normally wouldn't work for your company. So, for example, somebody who lives far away, if you're asking them to come in 4 or 5 days a week, that person is very talented and has a certain skill. Um, they're not going to be a candidate for your firm. On the
Well,
other hand, if you have a remote policy, for example, there's some law firms that have some attorneys that work almost totally remote, and that works well for them because otherwise they wouldn't be able to have that person working for the organization. So it's a whole measurement of a lot of factors.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays its way out, and we can all watch our favorite serial sitcom, the federal government, as they, tell people that if they don't come back to work after almost 40, 50 years of some kind of flex schedule, that they're going to get fired. So I think entrepreneurs are watching this closely to see how it's going to affect them, the lawsuits. So I think we have a good litmus test in that one. We have no choice but to watch that and see how it plays its way out. Fabulous Mark Z. If people want your sage advice, how do they find you?
Well, you're kind. First of all, Google Mark Z, MARC, and the letter Z. Go on the wonderful Radio Entrepreneurs website, radioentrepreneurs.com. Go to markzlegal.com, markzlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mark. And
Thank you.
I look forward to speaking to you again next week on Radio Entrepreneurs.